Welcome back guys to another video, and today I'm going to show you how to make an interact system for blueprints. The next video will be this for C++, the same thing. So let's get started. Let's open up a first person character and we'll do two things. When we hover on an interactable object, we'll show a tooltip called open or interact and below the name, and we'll do that in the next video. For now we'll just use the interact. So let's get right click on the first person player and search for event tick. That's our frame event. So this will run every frame. This is not a beginner's video, so if you are beginner, you better check out some other channels and get some intermediate knowledge of blueprints. So now we have our event tick right here. So we'll drag out, we'll line trace by channel, and for the start location, we'll drag out our first person camera, get world location, and that will be our start location. And for the end location, what we'll do is we'll get the first person camera, get its forward vector, that's like the center of the screen. So this points to the center of the screen, this vector, and we'll multiply it by a float. So this float will be our range. So let's promote this to a variable and call this range. And let's change this name to interact range. That will be better suited. And now we just plug this into the end. It's oh sorry, not this. We'll have to add this to the world location then of the camera, and then plug this into end. So here we are. Here we have a line trace. Let's set the default value of the variable first. Let's compile this and let's set this to like 3 meters, I mean 300 units. That should be good. Let's drag out our out hit, right click and break the hit result. So now let's back out and from our let's make a folder called interactables. Sorry, I don't know how to spell. Yep, that's good. Let's open this up and right click, create a blueprint class, actor. Let's call this interact base. So we'll use inheritance for this. We'll make child blueprint classes for each. So let's make an example. Like let's call this color color cube. We'll make it this a cube which changes color on interacting. But we won't open this color cube up. We'll open our interact base. All our logic will be in here. So now let's go to the class settings and we have to make an interface. So blueprint interface, if you don't know what it is, it basically allows communication between two blueprints without casting. So now what we'll do is we don't need an interface right now, because I think it will be too advanced. So let's leave that and let's go to a first person character and let's just drag out from a hit actor and say cast to interact base. So this will check whether this object, this hit actor right here, is of the class interact base, and if it is, then it'll execute through this pin, else the cast will fail. So as interact base, let's stop this right now, and as interact base, let's let me remove this. That's for testing. Yeah. So let's add new variable, call this interact actor. So this will be actor we're looking at right now. And now you might be wondering, why are we checking this on tick? This is for the next video when we'll make it so like we can hover over the object and it'll display a tooltip like interact with this name. So for now let's just interact and we will set interact base to actually don't set this to actor, set this to interact base. It's a object reference. Just change variable type, don't worry. And yeah, no results found. So let's change this to interact actor. So it's set now. We already have an interact actor down. So I could go into the project settings and add an input, but instead I'll just use keyboard E. And when we press the key, we we'll get the interact actor, and we have to make a new event in the interact base. Let's move over to the interact base. Let's add a new event called interact. Add custom event. Call this interact. So when we interact, or let's call this from here. So when we press E, if I is valid, let's check if it is valid. If our interact actor does exist, we have a valid interact actor, then what we'll do is we'll call the event interact on our interact actor. But that's not it. If we do it like this, it'll be an error. because I have shown you the wrong method right now. If you want to see what will happen, let's just change this first. Let's make a new material for the cube. Material, color change material, this up, and let's add a vector parameter. Hold V on the keyboard and left click, so it'll add a vector parameter called this color. Make sure you remember the name of what you named the parameter and connect this to the base color. That's all we have to do in this material. Let's apply the changes. Let's save this. And now we have a color. So let's right click, create a material instance. Just enter, just keep the default name. And now let's go back to our interact base and go back to our first person blueprints, and where we made the color cube, open that up, add a static mesh component to it, and set the static mesh to a cube, and then set the material to the, oh no, color material. No, what would name it? Color change, yeah, color change matte instance. And let's compile it. Let's change the default color of the color matte instance to like, I don't know, like red. That's good. So when we interact with this, we'll change it to green. So let's go back to a color cube. So when we have like in a parent class, when we have this event in here, we can also run it from this. We can also run it from its children, like the color cube. So now if we right click, and or either way we can just override it from here. We have in the override button, if we hover over it, we can see there's an interact event appearing right here. So if we click it, we can just override the interact of the base class. So it won't run this, but instead it will run this logic when it gets interacted with. So let's come over here and let's get the static mesh, create sorry create dynamic material instance, and element index should be 0, and source material is our color change instance. And then we'll just promote this to a variable if you want to. Let's just promote it, mat inst. And now let's set vector parameter. Oh, we don't want to do this in the interact. We want to do this in the even begin play. Sorry, sorry for all the mistakes I'm making. Yeah. So now when we have made a dynamic material, we can just drag this variable out, and we can just set vector parameter value. So we named a vector parameter color, so we'll put in color here. If you want, you can just go to your color change mat and copy the name from there and paste it by Control V, and let's change it to something like a light green. So that's our interactive and done. But what will happen now if we drag out a cube from from here, replace it in the world, paste 3 of them. All right. So now another thing I think I'll do is I'll go to the first person character, and in the line trace I'll just draw debug 5 for duration so we can see the traces. So now let's compile and let's press play. So as you can see, it's hitting this cube right here, and even if I don't look at the cube, if I press E, it'll change its color. So that's the wrong way. So even if I look at this, I don't look at it and then press E, it'll still change its color. So what we'll have to do, if the interact actor, so now, so we have our interact actor here. We're assigning it right now. So if this cast fails, then we'll set interact actor to null, and we have to add a branch here. If it is true, if the cast is true, but still we need one more condition. Otherwise, it can still assign different interact actors instead of the same one. So we'll have a condition here. If our current interact actor, since we haven't inside the new one yet, if the old interact actor is the same as our interact base, then we won't set the interact actor. And if it is false, then we'll set the interact actor. So that should work now, I hope. Now if we press play, E, and if we just come here and press E, it won't work. It works now. And if we press here and press E, let's check for multiple objects now. Let's, if we click on this and then we instead come here, it won't change. So everything's working fine. So if you want some separate logic there, you can add more logic like color cube. In this event interact, you can make more. If you want to add more interactable objects, you just right click on the interact base, create new class, or just press Control W on the color cube, and just it'll make a new child. Like it Control W is for shortcut for duplicate. So that we can just like move cube. Let's name this and let's open this one up. Let's make another interactable object. And after changing a material vector parameter value in this one, we'll also add world location, add actor world offset, and let's split this struct pin and let's add like something like 50 to the Z on interaction. So now, if we delete this and add a new move cube out, it'll move upwards as well as it'll move upwards as well as change its color. So you can just make as many interactables as you want. And now quit watching this video if you don't want the explanation. Now I'm going to show you the logic behind this program. So now let's go back to a first person character. So let's start with the event tech. What this does is it shoots a ray out of the camera each second. As you can see from these lines, it shoots like from the center of the camera to like right in front till the range, and the range is assigned to this variable, which is multiplied by the forward vector, that is like the range for which it checks. So if so now let's add another thing here. If you want to, you can add this also if you want to optimize the program, so it'll only run if it hits something, else it won't. So now, so if you can see, as you can see, there's a branch here. So another thing you want to do, so if you add this branch, you want to go set the false to that, set interact actor to false, otherwise it will create some like weird bugs. So now let's start with the explanation. So here's a line trace with channel. We just checked for it. We got all this information back from the trace, and if we hit the trace, then we check if the actor which we hit belongs to the class of interact base, and then we have a branch to check if it is the same as the old interact actor. But if it is same, we don't do anything. But if it's a new interact actor, then we set it to the interact actor variable. Then if, if the class we hit is not an interact base, then we set the interact actor to null. If you don't put anything in this pin, it just means it's null, it won't do anything. So now when we, so for here we have a keyboard event E. So when we press a button E, it'll check it, because if this is null, it'll show up as false. It will show up as is not valid. But if we have an interact actor and it exists in this word, so it'll show is valid, and then we'll just call interact event on the interact actor. Since we have an event on a base class called interact, we'll also have an event called interact in the child class, and we can override this event on each of our child classes without any problems. But this will override the behavior of this original event, so you cannot use this event again. So if you want, by chance you want to use the basic interact of the interact base here, you just search for interact here, yeah, interact. Actually no, I'll show you in a later video. It's like a bit mind boggling right now, so I'll show you that in the later video. So now you just understand for now, if we have a event in the base class, we can override it in the child class, which will give a new logic to the same event, and we can still call it from the base class. And another thing to keep in mind is if you cast to a base class, it will also return true for all the child classes. That is a very important property of casting. So even if you make the child of this and another child of the child of this, then it will still return true if you cast to interact base. So keep in mind. So basically when we interact, we just setting the variable, the color vector parameter to like a green color. So that's all for this video guys. If you like this video, then subscribe, else I'll see you guys later.